I'm done pretending. And I won't sugarcoat anything for you anymore. I don't want this marriage, and I don't want you. I'm tired of carrying a relationship that died a long time ago. Tired of forcing myself to play the role of a wife I never truly wanted to be. Being married to you has drained me. I want out completely. I want a divorce.
I stared at her in utter disbelief, my heart pounding so loudly that it echoed in my ears. Divorce? That was something I had only heard about from other people or seen in home videos. It had always felt distant, like a storm happening in another city, never something that could touch me personally. It had never happened in my family or even among my close friends. And now, here was my wife, Chioma, looking me dead in the eye and uttering that word as though she was talking about the weather. With a shaky voice, I managed to speak, my throat dry. Chioma, why? Why would you want to divorce me? To the best of my knowledge, I have been a good husband to you. I've done everything I can to make you happy. Why would you even think of leaving me? But she just stared back at me coldly, her face unreadable. My mind drifted back to when it all began, back to the very first day I met Chioma. She was 18 at the time, in her final year of secondary school. I was 33, already an established mechanic with a thriving roadside workshop. That day, I had just finished fixing a client's car near her school. As I wiped my hands and walked back toward my old Toyota, ready to return to the workshop, I saw her walking down the road. The sight of her froze me in place. Her beauty was almost otherworldly. Even in her simple school uniform, she was breathtaking. Her smooth skin glistened in the afternoon sun, and her smile, though faint, lit up her entire face. I stood there, glued to the spot, my eyes locked on her as she approached. What a beauty! I whispered to myself, my heart thumping. At that moment, I made a silent vow. I must have her, no matter what it would take. As she got closer, I gathered my courage and called out softly, "Hello, Angel." She looked up, a little startled, then gave me a sweet, shy smile. "Hello, sir," she replied, her voice as soft as velvet. That voice sent shivers down my spine. I knew right then that I couldn't let her pass me by. "Where are you headed?" I asked gently, trying to keep my tone casual. "I'm going home," she said. "Can I give you a ride?" I offered, watching her carefully. I could see her hesitate. She probably wanted to say no, but after a moment of thought, she nodded reluctantly. She slid into the passenger seat of my old Toyota, and we began the short drive to her home. During the ride, I asked her a few questions. She told me her name was Chioma, and that she was the firstborn and only daughter in a family of 4 children. By the time I dropped her off, I realized her house was just a 3-minute walk from my workshop. Before she stepped out, I said, "I'd like to see you again. Please visit me at my workshop when you have the time. I'd really like us to be friends." She thanked me softly and promised she would visit. True to her word, she came by the following Saturday. That day, my heart pounded as I confessed my feelings for her. "Chioma," I said, staring into her wide, innocent eyes, "I love you. I want you to be my girlfriend." She didn't answer immediately. "Please give me some time to think about it," she said. The next 2 weeks were torture. I feared she would reject me. After all, I was just a roadside mechanic, even though I earned good money and had wealthy clients. I already owned a piece of land and was building my own house, but would that matter to a young, beautiful girl like her? When she finally said yes, I was ecstatic. She wanted a no-sex relationship, which I gladly agreed to. I was more than willing to wait for her. From then on, Chioma fell deeply in love with me, far more than I expected. She became my everything loving, respectful, and devoted. She would visit me at the workshop, and we would talk and laugh for hours. I spoiled her with gifts, never waiting for her to ask. A few months later, she completed her secondary school education, wrote JAMB, and gained admission into the university to study English. I was proud, but also terrified. What if she met someone else at school and left me? I confessed my fears to her, and she squeezed my hand, looking me straight in the eyes. "I understand your fears," she said softly, "but don't worry. I give you my word. I am all yours." Her assurance calmed me. 3 weeks before her resumption date, she came rushing into my workshop, tears streaming down her face. My heart skipped a beat. "Chioma, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" I asked frantically. She couldn't speak at first, only sobbed uncontrollably. After a while, she managed to choke out the words that would change everything. My father died last night in a car crash. He died on the spot." The news hit me like a sledgehammer. I had never met her father, though I'd heard a lot about him. I felt deeply for her and her family. I went with her to her house that evening and met her mother and siblings. She introduced me to them as her friend. 2 weeks later, her father was buried. It was a difficult time for Chioma. When it was time for her to resume school, a new problem arose: money. With her father gone and her mother being just a petty trader, there was no way she could afford her education. I made a decision that day, a decision that would later become my greatest regret. I chose to sponsor Chioma's education. My friends and family strongly warned me against it. They said I was making a mistake, that I barely knew this girl, but I was stubborn. Anyone who spoke against my decision instantly became my enemy. "We're going to get married after all," I would snap at them. Not only did I pay her school fees from her first year to her final year, but I also supported her mother and siblings financially. I had already told Chioma of my intention to marry her, and she had accepted wholeheartedly. When she finally graduated, we planned our wedding while she was still in her final year. Immediately after her convocation, we tied the knot. I was on top of the world. I laughed at those who had doubted me, those who had said sponsoring her education was foolish. Chioma was now my wife, and we moved into my completed, fully furnished house. She was almost 25, and I had just turned 40. I thought life was perfect. Little did I know that I had walked straight into a nightmare. Chioma soon got a teaching job at a private secondary school about 20 minutes from our home. At first, I would drop her off in the mornings, but I eventually stopped because my clients often called me very early to handle urgent car repairs. Her salary was a modest 40,000 naira. I wasn't happy about the job because she always came home looking exhausted. I suggested she quit, but she said she would endure until something better came along. 6 months later, she came home with a new idea. If I get a master's degree, I can qualify for better job offers, she explained. I thought about it and agreed. We applied to a nearby private university so she could go from home daily. The savings I had set aside to upgrade my car were used to pay for her program. She resigned from her teaching job and started her postgraduate studies. During this time, Chioma was still the sweet, respectful wife I had known. She cooked my meals, kept the house spotless, and treated me with love. On my part, I adored her. I could give up my life just to see her smile. But one thing bothered me. Chioma never seemed eager to be intimate. She would come up with endless excuses, waist pain, headaches, even menstrual cramps when she wasn't on her period. Whenever we did, it was because I begged. I asked her if I was doing something wrong. She always assured me I wasn't, but the situation never changed. 18 months later, Chioma completed her program, and true to her prediction, the university offered her a job in the English department. Her intelligence, articulate speech, and beauty made her a perfect fit. I was proud beyond words. On her convocation day, I wanted to accompany her, but she refused. "I'm just going to the chapel to praise God. I'll be back soon," she said casually. "If it's about pictures, don't worry, I'll bring the gown home." Her excuse sounded flimsy, but I didn't argue. I went to my workshop instead. She started her lecturing job with a salary of 150,000 naira. Things seemed to be looking up, except for one glaring issue. 2 years into our marriage, we still had no child. I was already 42 and becoming restless. One night, I brought up my concerns. "Chioma, we need to talk about this. 2 years of marriage and no baby? What's going on?" She stared at me for a moment, then said, "I wanted to surprise you tomorrow, but since you've brought it up, I'll tell you now." She paused, then blurted out, "I'm pregnant." Joy flooded my heart. I jumped out of bed and danced around, shouting praises. But when I looked at her, she didn't seem as happy as I expected. "Aren't you happy?" I asked, puzzled. "I might lose my job," she said tearfully. "I'm not supposed to get pregnant within my first year of employment." True enough, when her employers found out, there was trouble. She almost lost her job, but her brilliance saved her. They decided to keep her on because she was too valuable to lose. She had a smooth pregnancy and eventually gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, our precious Adaora. I was over the moon. But that was when everything began to crumble. After Adaora's birth, Chioma changed completely. She became a stranger to me. She had a second-degree tear and was in severe pain, so her mother came to stay with us for Omugwo, taking care of Chioma, the baby, and the household chores. Seeing how exhausted my mother-in-law was, I decided to help. One morning, I prepared yam and egg sauce and took Chioma's breakfast to her room. But as soon as I walked in, she sat up sharply. "Why are you in my room?" she demanded. I brought you breakfast, my love," I said softly, trying to sound romantic. Her response hit me like a slap. "Did I ask you to make me breakfast? Don't ever make food for me again in this house. Did you hear me?" Stunned, I walked out silently, my heart aching. Later that day, I bought her favorite Hollandia yogurt and some fruits, hoping to make peace. When I handed them to her, she rejected them without even looking. Her mother asked why, but Chioma said nothing. Days turned into weeks, and she grew colder. She wouldn't let me drop her off at work or even teach her to drive. She stopped asking for upkeep money, so every month I would quietly transfer funds to her account. She never acknowledged the deposits. 8 months passed without intimacy. When I finally confronted her, begging to know what I had done wrong, she simply said, "You've done nothing. I just need time alone." Eventually, we resumed sleeping together, but it was mechanical, loveless, just bodies meeting, not hearts. When Adaora turned 18 months, my mother-in-law took her to her house for a while. That very day, I decided to surprise Chioma. I bathed, dressed nicely, bought scented roses, and drove to her university. I didn't know her department, so I asked for directions. At last, I found it and waited in my car. 30 minutes later, Chioma emerged, laughing and chatting with 2 colleagues, a man and a woman. The sight of her happy like that filled me with joy. I stepped out of the car, smiling, and walked toward her, holding the flowers. The moment she saw me, her smile vanished. Her face hardened. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply, irritation lacing her voice. "I came to take you somewhere special," I said softly, handing her the flowers. She hesitated, reluctant to take them. "Who is he?" her male colleague asked, clearly puzzled by her reaction. That's my husband," she stammered, struggling to say the words. The man turned to me with a broad, friendly smile and extended his hand. "Ah, it's so nice to finally meet you," he said warmly, shaking my hand. The female colleague also greeted me politely. "I'll see you both," Chioma told them immediately, and dragged me along, back to where I parked my car. She sat on the passenger's seat as I took the driver's seat. "Take me home," was all she said. I quietly drove us back home, without uttering a word. It was immediately we entered the house that she turned to me and said, "I want a divorce." "Chioma, what do you mean by what you just said?" I asked, my voice trembling with pain and disbelief. "Why would you even consider divorce at all?" My heart felt like it was about to burst. I could barely breathe as I waited for her answer. She looked me straight in the eyes, completely unmoved by my emotions. Her face was cold, her tone sharp. "Chukwudi, I don't love you," she said without flinching. "I only married you out of gratitude for all you did for me. I thought that with time I would grow to love you, but it's not working." "It has never worked." As if that wasn't enough to shatter me, she added, "I can't do this anymore. I quit." Then she turned and walked away, leaving me standing there like a man whose entire world had just collapsed. I stood frozen for several seconds, unable to process what had just happened. Her words echoed in my head like a haunting song. Chioma used to love me. I felt it. I saw it in her eyes when we first started. What changed? Where did I go wrong? I asked myself these questions over and over, but no answers came. That night, I went to bed without eating. Hunger was the least of my worries. My chest burned with so much pain, and my eyes refused to close. Around 2 a.m. Unable to bear the torment any longer, I quietly walked into Chioma's room and woke her up. My heart bled as I knelt beside her bed, begging her to reconsider her decision, if not for me, then at least for the sake of our daughter, little Adaora. Her response was like a dagger to my soul. She looked at me with a face devoid of emotion and said coldly, "I will stay in this house on one condition: no more sex between us. If you can agree to that, fine. If not, I will leave." My mouth fell open in shock. But she wasn't done. Thankfully, we only had a traditional marriage, she added matter-of-factly. There won't even be a need for a lawyer. My bride price would simply be returned, and that will be the end of everything. And with that, she rolled over and went back to sleep, leaving me kneeling there, broken and humiliated. I got up slowly, my legs weak beneath me, and returned to my room. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling until the first light of dawn. I didn't want to face her that morning, so I left home very early, heading straight to my workshop before the sun had fully risen. At work, I couldn't concentrate. My mind kept replaying her cruel words. My tools felt heavy in my hands, and every car I touched seemed like a burden. It was as though the life had been drained out of me. In the afternoon, my friend Charles, whose wife had once suffered from postpartum depression, stopped by to visit. After exchanging pleasantries, I asked him how long his wife's PPD had lasted after she gave birth. "About 2 months," he replied casually. I sighed deeply, then decided to open up a little. Chioma has been acting strangely since Adaora's birth. Cold, distant, even hostile. It's been 18 months now, Charles. 18 long months, and she's still behaving this way. I didn't tell him about the divorce yet. I wasn't ready to expose my shame to anyone. Charles frowned and shook his head. No, that doesn't sound like PPD anymore. 2 months is normal, maybe 3 in some rare cases, but 18 months? My brother, there's more to it than that. If PPD isn't well managed, it can destroy relationships, yes, but this sounds deeper. You need to sit her down and talk to her. Find out if there's something you're not doing right, or if there's something she's not telling you. His words gave me little comfort, but I thanked him for his advice. Charles stayed a bit longer, trying to cheer me up, then eventually left. That evening, I closed the workshop earlier than usual and decided to visit my mother-in-law. Maybe, just maybe, she could talk some sense into her daughter. When I arrived, she welcomed me warmly. After exchanging pleasantries, I poured my heart out to her. I told her everything Chioma had said about wanting a divorce and how she had been treating me like a stranger for months. Mama listened carefully, her face full of sadness and concern. When I finished, she took my hands and apologized on behalf of her daughter. She promised to speak with Chioma and caution her. I felt a bit relieved. I spent some time there, playing with little Adaora. My daughter's laughter was the only light in my dark world. Holding her tiny hands, I silently prayed for my marriage to be healed. But night eventually came, and I had to leave. I thanked my mother-in-law and returned home, where Chioma and I continued living like 2 strangers, sharing a roof. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday, my car needed servicing, so I left it at the workshop and took a bike home. As I approached the house, I heard voices from inside. I slowed my steps and realized it was Chioma and her mother. Mama's voice was raised, filled with anger and frustration, while Adaora was crying in the background. My heart raced as I quietly moved closer to listen. Something told me not to go inside yet. Mama was scolding Chioma fiercely. I stood there, eavesdropping, my stomach twisting with unease. Mama's voice was filled with pain as she demanded, "Chioma, how dare you? You are an ingrate. After everything Chukwudi has done for you, this is how you repay him? Do you even care about your daughter?" Do you want her to grow up in a broken home with her parents apart? Chioma's reply made my blood run cold. Her tone was bitter, laced with resentment. Mama, you caused all of this. Back in my final year at the university, I brought home the man I truly loved, the one my heart desired. But you rejected him. You insisted I marry Chukwudi instead. I did what you wanted, but now I can't keep living this lie. I want to do what makes me happy. My heart thudded loudly in my chest. Another man? I pressed myself against the wall, straining to hear more. Mama's voice cracked with disbelief. I rejected that man because I am not ungrateful like you. Chukwudi made his intentions known from the very beginning. He sponsored your education because he loved you and wanted to marry you. You were the one who brought him home to me first, remember? But Chioma didn't stop. Her words cut deep, like sharpened knives. I changed my mind when I met the love of my life at school. But you, Mama, you refused to listen. You even threatened to disown me if I didn't marry Chukwudi. I only went through with it to please you. I've done your bidding long enough. I can't keep pretending, Mother. I'm done. There was a heavy silence before Mama spoke again, her voice trembling. Chioma, I am confused. Chukwudi takes care of you like no other man would. He loves you more than he loves himself. That man is willing to swim across the ocean for you. What more do you want from him? Tell me, make me understand. Chioma's reply destroyed me. Her tone was full of disdain. He is below the standard of the man I want to be married to. Mama, open your eyes. His English is terrible and he is nothing but a roadside mechanic. A common mechanic, Mama. How do you expect me to proudly present someone like him as my husband in front of people? The words pierced my soul like 1,000 arrows. Roadside mechanic. That was how she saw me. The same work that had fed her, her siblings, and even her mother. The same work with which I sponsored both her first and second degrees. Before I could fully process the pain, I heard a loud, sharp sound, a slap. Mama had struck her. Chioma let out a shocked cry. I wanted to rush in, but something held me back. My heart was in pieces, and I knew if I stepped inside, I would break down completely. Instead, I turned around and stumbled away like a wounded animal. My legs felt weak, but I somehow made it to the main road and flagged down a bike. I told the rider to take me to a bar far from home. When I arrived, I went straight to the counter and ordered drink after drink. I drowned my sorrow in alcohol, hoping it would numb the pain in my heart. But no matter how much I drank, Chioma's words kept echoing in my head. She thinks I'm beneath her. She's ashamed of me. She never loved me. I stayed there until the bar was about to close. The attendant finally came over and politely told me I had to leave. Staggering, I managed to get another bike and returned home in the dead of night. When I entered the house, I went straight to my room. I locked the door, collapsed on the bed, and cried like a baby. For the first time in my life, I felt completely and utterly betrayed. The woman I had given my all to, the woman I sacrificed everything for, had repaid me with scorn and humiliation. That night, I made up my mind. If Chioma didn't love me, I would not force her to stay. If she doesn't want me, I whispered to myself through my tears, then I will let her go. The next day was a Sunday. I woke up later than usual because I hadn't been able to sleep properly all night. My eyes were red and swollen from crying myself to exhaustion. The pain in my chest felt like a heavy stone pressing down on me. Dragging myself out of bed, I shuffled to the living room. The place was empty. I checked Chioma's room, but she wasn't there either. I assumed she had gone to church with Adaora. Feeling weak and drained, I went to the kitchen and made a simple cup of tea. As I sipped it slowly, I sat alone in my room, rehearsing in my mind what I was going to say to her when she returned. My thoughts were scattered, my heart still bleeding from everything I had discovered. 2 hours later, I was sitting in the living room when the door opened. Chioma walked in with Adaora strapped securely on her back, her face expressionless. Close behind her was her mother, Mama, who wore a worried look. We exchanged pleasantries, and Chioma turned, about to walk straight into her room, but I stopped her. "I want to talk to you briefly," I said, my voice surprisingly calm despite the storm raging inside me. She turned slowly to face me, her eyes cold. "You are free, Chioma," I said firmly. "You are free to go. It is obvious you don't love me, and I will never force you to stay in a marriage you don't want. But there's one thing you must know: you cannot go with my child. Adaora is all I have left in this world." My voice broke slightly as I spoke those last words. Mama quickly intervened, stepping forward. "My in-law," she said, trying to soothe the tension. "Please, let's not talk like this. Chioma will remain here, married to you, and she will give you more children. Ignore her attitude. She is still young and doesn't fully understand the value of what she has." But Chioma herself didn't utter a single word. Without even acknowledging my statement, she simply turned around and disappeared into her room, leaving me standing there with Mama. Mama turned to me, still pleading. She tried to convince me that Chioma truly loved me, but was just going through a phase. I shook my head bitterly. "Chioma is not a child, Mama. She is in her late 20s. She is old enough to know exactly what she wants, and clearly that isn't me. She can go." Mama looked shocked, but I wasn't finished. My chest tightened as I continued. "Besides, I overheard your conversation with her the other night," I confessed, my voice shaking. "So it's true that she brought another man to you years ago, someone she truly wanted, but you rejected him. It means she never loved me, not even for a moment. Mama, there is no point pretending anymore. She can leave." The look of disbelief on Mama's face told me she had no idea I had overheard their conversation. For the first time in days, I felt strangely strong. I thought the truth would crush me completely, but instead, it gave me the courage to face reality. Without waiting for a response, I left the house. When I returned home later that evening, Mama was gone. Chioma was there, but she didn't say a single word to me, and I didn't speak to her either. We simply coexisted under the same roof like strangers. Days turned into weeks, and Chioma still refused to leave. I didn't understand why she stayed after I had granted her freedom. The house was filled with silence, except for the sound of little Adaora's laughter. She became my only friend, my comfort, my light in the darkness. One day, fate intervened. A wealthy-looking man's car broke down not far from my workshop. I was called to help. After inspecting the vehicle, I discovered the fan belt had snapped. I quickly sent one of my apprentices to get a replacement. Within an hour, I had fixed the car perfectly. The man was impressed beyond words. He paid me double what I charged and handed me his business card. "Call me tomorrow," he said. "I have several other vehicles that need servicing. I want you to handle them." I was deeply grateful and thanked him sincerely. The next day, I called the number and followed his directions to his office. To my utter surprise, I found myself standing inside People's Choice University, the very institution where Chioma worked. My jaw dropped when I realized the man I had helped was none other than the Vice-Chancellor of the university. That same day, we signed a contract. He officially placed me in charge of maintaining all the institution's vehicles. He smiled warmly as he explained why. "Someone fixed this same car part 2 weeks ago and charged me 4 times what you did," he said. "You are an honest man, and I like that. Please, always make yourself available whenever we need you." From that day on, I began working regularly for the school, servicing their buses and cars. I made a significant amount of money from the arrangement. Chioma had no idea about this, as we barely spoke at home. We never crossed paths on campus either. One afternoon, after finishing a routine service on one of their buses, I felt hungry and decided to stop by the university restaurant before heading home. As I parked my car in the restaurant lot, I noticed a beautiful, expensive Prado Jeep parked right beside me. Just as I was about to step out, I caught a glimpse of a very familiar face through the transparent window of the Prado. My heart skipped a beat. I leaned forward for a better look, and my worst fears were confirmed. It was Chioma, but she wasn't alone. Sitting beside her was a strikingly handsome, well-dressed man who radiated wealth and confidence. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. From my car, I watched as they laughed together, chatting happily. Then, without hesitation, the man leaned closer and locked lips with my wife. My world spun. My stomach churned. I thank God I hadn't brought any of my boys along that day. If they had witnessed this, the humiliation would have been unbearable. The sight crushed me completely. So this was why Chioma refused to move out even after I gave her my blessing to leave. She had been staying just to deceive me while sneaking around with another man. My appetite vanished instantly. My hands trembled as I started the car and sped away, my heart pounding painfully against my chest. "How heartless can Chioma be?" I muttered, tears blurring my vision. When I finally regained some control, I picked up my phone and dialed Mama's number. The moment she answered, I didn't even greet her. "Mama," I said, my voice shaking with anger, "if you value your daughter's safety, tell her never to return to my house. If she does, I swear something terrible will happen." Mama didn't say a word, but I knew she understood the gravity of my warning. That evening, Chioma didn't return home. I knew Mama must have passed on my message, but the pain inside me didn't go away. My mind was spinning out of control. I tried to distract myself at work, but no matter what I did, the image of Chioma kissing that man haunted me. 2 days later, Mama came to visit. She sat down heavily and looked at me with a mix of confusion and worry. "Why did you tell Chioma not to return home?" she asked, her voice trembling. Taking a deep breath, I recounted everything I had seen: the expensive car, the laughter, the kiss. As I spoke, Mama's hands began to shake. When I finished, she opened her mouth, but no words came out. Suddenly, she dropped to the ground and wept bitterly. I rushed to her side, trying to comfort her, but she was inconsolable. "My late husband," she cried out, her voice breaking. "See what your daughter has done to me. I tried my best to raise her well, but she has chosen to go astray." Her grief tore at my heart. After some time, she calmed down, wiped her tears, and looked me directly in the eyes. "You have done more than enough, my son," she said softly. "You are a good man. Right now, I cannot blame you for anything." She left shortly after, but before she went, I informed her that I would soon come for Adaora. She nodded in agreement, understanding my decision. Days passed, but the pain didn't ease. I began frequenting different bars, drinking late into the night, hoping alcohol would numb my suffering. But no matter how much I drank, the hurt only grew stronger. Even the Vice-Chancellor noticed something was wrong. One day, he pulled me aside and asked why I seemed so distracted. I told him I had personal issues at home. Out of kindness, he gave me 1 full week off to sort out my domestic troubles. I spent that entire week moving from one beer parlour to another, drowning my sorrows in drink. On one such night, as I sat at a table surrounded by empty bottles, a young woman approached and sat beside me. She studied my face for a moment and then exclaimed, "Yes, it's you! You're Chioma's husband." I squinted at her, confused. She looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place her. "Look closely," she urged. "I'm her colleague, the one who was with her that day you came to pick her up with flowers at the university." Memories clicked into place, and I nodded slowly. "Oh, yes, I remember now." She noticed the numerous bottles in front of me and asked gently, "Why are you drinking so much?" I didn't respond. I just reached for another bottle, but she quickly grabbed my hand. "No," she said firmly. "You've had enough." At that moment, her phone rang. She answered, only to discover that the person she had come to meet at the bar had cancelled their appointment. Without hesitation, she paid for all my drinks and told the attendant to clear the table. Then she offered to drive me home. Too weary to argue, I accepted. She helped me into her car, and I gave her directions to my house. Surprisingly, when we got there, she didn't ask about Chioma or why she wasn't home. She simply dropped me off politely and left. From that day forward, she began checking in on me regularly, calling to see how I was doing. I didn't encourage it, especially since she was close to Chioma, but she wouldn't stop. Meanwhile, Chioma's father's family officially returned my bride price, as tradition demanded. Chioma left Adaora with her mother, just as I requested. That gave her the freedom she seemed to crave, to live her life however she pleased. I visited Mama's house often to see my daughter, my little princess, and the most important person in my life. I even started making plans to hire a nanny so I could bring Adaora to live with me permanently. One afternoon, my friend Charles visited me at the workshop. It had been about a month since the painful day I saw Chioma with that man. After exchanging greetings, I finally opened up to him completely about my marriage crisis. Charles listened quietly, then offered words of encouragement. But what he said next shook me to my core. "Chukwudi," he began carefully, "how certain are you that Adaora is your biological daughter? I think you should find out. It would be devastating to raise another man's child without knowing." His words struck me like lightning. My hands trembled. "If Araora turns out not to be mine," I whispered, my voice breaking, I don't know if I can go on living. That same day, I went straight to Mama's house, collected Araora, and took her to a reputable lab in town. Samples were taken for a DNA test, and I was asked to return in a week for the results. That week felt like an eternity. Every day was filled with dread and sleepless nights. Finally, the day came. My heart raced as I sat in the lab, waiting. The doctor smiled as he handed me the result. "Congratulations, sir," he said warmly. "She is your biological daughter." I didn't even fully understand the medical jargon he read aloud, but those words were all I needed to hear. Overcome with relief, I hugged him tightly, tears streaming down my face. Adaora was mine. My little girl was truly mine. Life slowly began to take shape again. I continued shuttling between my home and Mama's house, devoted to caring for my daughter. She became my reason to keep living. Chioma's colleague, the woman who had given me a ride, kept calling, checking in on me constantly. I didn't like the idea of anyone connected to Chioma being close to me, so I tried to discourage her gently, but she persisted, refusing to give up. 6 months after Chioma and I had gone our separate ways, something unexpected happened. One day, after I finished working on some of the university buses, the Vice-Chancellor summoned me to his office. When I arrived, he explained that a close friend of his needed a trustworthy mechanic, so he was recommending me. He handed me the man's contact information. Just as I was about to leave, he suddenly asked, "Chukwudi, what's your highest academic qualification?" I chuckled awkwardly. "Ogre, I stopped after my SSCE. Bookno be my mate. My brain just couldn't carry more." The VC smiled kindly. "I think you should go back to school. I feel strongly in my spirit to help you, but you'll need some form of certification." I laughed nervously. The idea sounded almost ridiculous. Olga, at this my age, going back to school? I beg, let me just keep managing myself like this, I replied, shaking my head. But he was persistent. "If you can't go to the university, then at least consider a technical school. Focus on mechanical engineering since that's already your field. Technical schools focus more on practical work than theory." His words sank deep into my mind. After a long pause, I finally said reluctantly, "Okay, I'll think about it. I will try." I reluctantly went to a technical school in the next town, picked up a form, and applied for a weekend program. A few weeks later, I received my admission letter. To be honest, I didn't make this decision because I was eager to further my education. I only did it because of the Vice-Chancellor. The man had been so good to me, and I didn't want to disappoint or offend him after all the kindness he had shown me. From the very first day of class, it became clear to me that it wouldn't be an easy journey. I struggled terribly to understand most of the things we were being taught, especially the theory. The long lectures and complicated terminologies felt like they were flying over my head. But when it came to the practical aspect, it was like second nature to me. Almost everything we were being taught in the first year were things I had been doing for many years at my workshop. The practical sessions gave me confidence and kept me motivated. Without them, I probably would have quit before the first semester ended. Still, there was a silver lining. Going to school became a distraction. It kept my mind off my heartbreak and the chaos that had consumed my life. For the first time since Chioma left, I felt like I had something new to focus on, and I loved that. So I continued attending school on weekends while managing my workshop and my contract with the university during the week. Not long after, I informed Mama Chioma's mother that I was planning to hire a live-in nanny so I could bring Adaura to stay with me permanently. Her eyes instantly filled with tears. She clasped her hands together and begged me. "She is my only companion now," she said, her voice trembling. "If you take her away, this house will become empty and silent. Please, my son, let her remain here with me." In all honesty, Mama was a good and godly woman. She had always treated me with kindness, even during the darkest moments of my marriage. It wasn't her fault that her daughter turned out to be so ungrateful. Out of respect for Mama, I agreed. Adaura remained with her grandmother, and I enrolled her in a private nursery school close to Mama's house. Watching my daughter start school was one of the few joys I had left. One Sunday evening, after returning home from school exhausted, I went into the kitchen to prepare a simple meal. Just as I was seasoning the pot, the doorbell rang. To my surprise, it was Chioma's colleague, the same woman I had met months ago. She stood at the door with a warm smile. "May I come in?" she asked politely. Yes, sure, come in," I replied, still wondering why she had come without notice. The aroma of food drifted from the kitchen, and she offered to help me finish up. We cooked together, set the table, and later sat down to eat. All through the meal, I couldn't help but notice her body language, soft glances, lingering touches, and subtle gestures. But I pretended not to notice, keeping my focus firmly on my food. After we were done, I asked why she had visited without calling first. "I was just driving past and decided to check on a friend," she said casually. "I hope I didn't do anything wrong." "No, not at all," I replied quickly, not wanting her to feel awkward. She looked at me and smiled. "You don't even know my name." "Anyway, my name is Vera Amadi, and I'm from Imo State." "Okay." I nodded simply. Vera stayed until about 9 p.m. When I asked if she was heading home soon, she stood up and walked over to where I was sitting. To my shock, she sat beside me and gently placed her hands on my shoulders. "Chukwudi," she began softly, "don't pretend you don't understand the signals I've been giving you. I admire you deeply. I know you and Chioma are separated now. She told me a lot about you, but most of it wasn't kind." My chest tightened as she continued. "She said you were unrefined, too local for her taste. She complained endlessly about your level of education and even told me she was forced to marry you. She never truly loved you, and honestly, I don't understand why a woman would ignore genuine love and care, choosing instead to focus on meaningless flaws. Nobody is perfect." Vera's voice trembled with emotion. "Chioma doesn't realize what she lost. I saw the love in your eyes the day you came to pick her up at school. Please give me a chance to treat you like the king you are." I stared at her, my mouth open in shock. So Chioma had been discussing me with her colleagues all along? She had even painted me as some kind of joke? My heart ached. I finally spoke. "Since she told you so much about me, did she also mention that I sponsored her through school from her first degree to her master's?" Vera gasped, her eyes wide. "What? Are you serious? She never told me that. She only said you were beneath her class, that she was ashamed to call you her husband." I gave a bitter smile. Well, now you know the truth. As for what you're asking, I'm sorry, Vera. A relationship is the last thing I want to think about right now. If you want us to remain friends, that's fine. But anything more than that, no. Please don't bring it up again. Vera looked deeply hurt, but I didn't care. In my eyes, she was still connected to Chioma, and I couldn't trust her intentions. Birds of the same feather, I thought. She picked up her bag and left quietly. Later that night, around 11 p.m, she called to apologize for her behavior and promised to remain nothing more than a good friend. Though I was skeptical, I decided to play along, not wanting to hurt her feelings outright. Exactly 1 year after Chioma and I separated, something unexpected happened. I was about to sleep when my phone rang. The name flashing on the screen made my heart skip a beat. It was Chioma. I froze. The memories came flooding back, and I hesitated to pick up. I ignored the first call, but she called again and again. By the fourth call, I reluctantly answered. "Hello?" I said cautiously. There was silence. I could hear faint background noise, but she didn't say a word. After waiting a while, I ended the call. Moments later, a text message came in. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from right now, but I really need to talk to you." I hissed and tossed the phone aside. What gave Chioma the audacity to think she could walk out of my life and return whenever she pleased, as though nothing had happened? I didn't reply to her message. Instead, I turned off my phone and went to bed. Chioma never called again after that night. My first year at the technical school was rough. I battled with comprehension and often felt like quitting. But by the second year, things began to improve. I started to enjoy my studies and even learned a few new things beyond what I already knew from years of practical experience. Meanwhile, Vera continued to push for friendship. Though I didn't fully trust her, I didn't want to hurt her, so I kept things cordial. One Sunday afternoon, while on break after exams, Vera called and invited me out. I was bored and lonely, so I reluctantly agreed. She sent me the address of a fancy restaurant about a 20-minute drive away. When I arrived, Vera was already waiting. We ordered food and began to eat. Then, out of nowhere, Vera looked at me with a playful smile. "Darling, are you enjoying the food?" she asked sweetly. My brow furrowed. "Darling?" I simply nodded, unsure of how to respond. Before I could say anything else, a woman walked up to our table from behind me. Vera's smile widened like she was expecting her. But when I turned to see who it was, my entire body went cold. It was Chioma. I almost didn't recognize her. The once beautiful, radiant Chioma was now a shadow of herself. Her face was bruised, and there was a bandage wrapped around her arm. She looked like someone who had been through something terrible. She froze when she saw me, shock written all over her face. Then her eyes darted to Vera, filled with disbelief and fury. "Vera, what is going on here?" Chioma demanded, her voice trembling. "Why are you sitting here, whining and dining with my husband?" Vera turned to me with a warm, mischievous smile and said sweetly, "Darling, please allow me to attend to her quickly." Then she faced Chioma again, her tone mocking. "Sit down, Chioma. You asked me to meet you here, and here I am." Chioma's voice rose. "Chukwudi is my husband, Vera, and you know it. Why would you even think of being in a relationship with him? Even even if he asked you out, you should have turned him down. Was this why you advised me to leave him so you could take my place?" Vera threw back her head and laughed loudly. "Chioma, let's get the facts straight. He is your ex-husband, not your husband. You were the one who sat me down and told me horrible things about him. You said he was uneducated, unrefined, and that everything about him irritated you. You even said you couldn't stand being married to him." Vera's voice sharpened as she continued, "But you never told me he sponsored you through school. Both your BSc and MSc degrees, the very qualifications that now make you look down on him, were made possible because of his hard work and sacrifice." "Chioma, you are an ungrateful woman." Gasps echoed from nearby tables as Vera's words cut through the air. "You were planning to run off with that man, Charles," Vera added. "So yes, I advised you to break up with Chukwudi. That was the most honourable thing to do. You painted such a terrible picture of him that I couldn't even believe it was the same man sitting here today. Since you refused to see the diamond God placed in your hands, I decided to try my luck. I know a good man when I see one. His level of education doesn't matter to me. That's not what makes a good husband." I sat there in stunned silence, listening as the two women argued, with Vera spilling every secret Chioma had shared with her, including details of her affair with Charles. My heart felt like it was being torn apart all over again. The scene was becoming chaotic. Other diners had stopped eating and were staring openly. An attendant rushed over to calm things down. Without saying a word, I reached into my pocket, pulled out enough cash to cover the bill, and dropped it on the table. Then, quietly, and with as much dignity as I could muster, I stood up and walked out of the restaurant. As I drove home, my mind raced. What happened to Chioma? Why did she look so broken? Was it an accident? Abuse? Or had her perfect life with Charles crumbled before her eyes? For a brief moment, I almost felt pity for her. But then I remembered the pain she had caused me. "Well," I muttered to myself, gripping the steering wheel tightly. "Whatever she's going through now, she brought it upon herself." I hate to admit it, but there was a strange sense of satisfaction deep inside me. It felt as though justice was finally being served. As for Vera, I shook my head bitterly. "She can never have me," I whispered. "Never." That night, just before I went to bed, my phone buzzed. I looked at the screen and saw Chioma's name. My heart skipped a beat. I opened the message and all it said was, "I am sorry." 2 small words. But they carried weight. They carried memories. They carried pain. I sat down slowly on the edge of my bed, staring at the phone screen. "Sorry?" I whispered to myself. Sorry for what? Sorry for all the lies? Sorry for the betrayal? Sorry for destroying my heart? My first instinct was to block her number. That way, she would never disturb me again. I almost clicked the button, but then something stopped me. I thought about Adaora, my daughter, my joy, the reason I still smiled, even in pain. Chioma is Adaora's mother, I reminded myself. What if something happens to my daughter? What if there is an emergency and I can't be reached because I blocked her mother? I sighed deeply and dropped the phone. No, I told myself. I will not block her, but I will also not let her control my heart anymore. She can send 1,000,000 sorry messages and I will not pay attention. I will ignore her. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about my life. My eyes were heavy, but sleep refused to come. When it finally came, it was restless. I tossed and turned until morning. The next day, I checked my phone and saw the same message again. I am sorry. The second day, the same. The third day, the same. For 2 weeks straight, every morning, I would open my phone and see a new message with the same 2 words from Chioma. I am sorry. It became like a clock alarm, reminding me of my pain, but I held my ground. I never replied. Vera also tried calling me many times during that period. Her number would flash on my screen, but I refused to pick up. I was not in the mood to talk to anyone. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to visit Mama, Chioma's mother, to see my little Adaora. The moment I stepped into the compound, Adaora's eyes lit up. She shouted, "Daddy!" and ran to me with her small hands wide open. My heart melted instantly. I bent down and lifted her high into the air. She laughed loudly, her tiny teeth shining. I spun her around and around, holding her tightly. She giggled, and her laughter filled the compound like music. Mama sat quietly on the veranda, watching us. I could see pride in her eyes. When Adora and I finally stopped playing, I greeted Mama. She asked me to sit down, and I was about to take a seat when the door creaked open. Chioma stepped out. I froze. My smile disappeared. She looked different. She was quiet, almost shy. She had removed the bandage from her face, but scars remained. They looked fresh, like wounds that still stung. Immediately, I got up, ready to leave. I had no desire to see her, not after all she had done. But Chioma quickly spoke. "Please," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Just hear me out. I know I am not worthy of you. I will not blame you if you refuse to take me back. I only need to speak. My heart is heavy. I feel guilty. I can hardly sleep at night. Please, just listen to me. That's all I ask." Mama shook her head and sighed. She has been begging me to plead on her behalf, but I refused. When I warned her, she did not listen. End friends. I looked at Mama, then turned back to Chioma. I sighed heavily and sat down again. If she wanted to speak, let her speak. I would listen. Chioma stood, looking at the ground. Her voice was low, almost breaking. "I loved you when we started," she said. "I loved you truly. You were my everything. Even when I entered university, I still loved you. But then, I made new friends. We sat together and talked about our boyfriends. They boasted of men with big jobs, managers, bankers, men who worked in air-conditioned offices. When I spoke about you and said you were a mechanic, they laughed. They gave me a name, the mechanic's girlfriend. That laughter killed something in me. Slowly, I began to see you differently. I started noticing your mistakes, your English, your mannerisms. Things I never cared about before became a problem. I wanted to break up, but I knew if I left you, I would lose my education. You were paying my fees, so I pretended. Then, in my final year, I met Charles. He was a banker. He dressed smartly, spoke polished English, and carried himself with confidence. He treated me kindly. He asked me out, and I said yes. He even proposed. I brought him home, but Mama rejected him. She threatened to disown me if I did not marry you. So I gave in. I married you, but in my heart, I had already decided I would not give you a child. After our wedding, I went to the hospital. I started family planning injections every 3 months. My plan was simple. No child, then after 2 or 3 years, we would separate. Then I would be free to marry an educated man. I even planned to travel abroad. I was saving with help from friends, the same friends who laughed at me. But 2 years later, after I got my lecturing job, the injection failed. I don't know how, but I became pregnant. That pregnancy ruined everything. I hated you even more. I blamed you for destroying my dream. That was why I treated you with disdain after Adaora was born. Then I met Charles again. He came to drop his niece at the university. We talked. He said he still loved me. He said he did not care that I had a child. I believed him. We started seeing each other again. He promised to raise money so we could run away together. When I looked around me, I saw my colleagues with educated husbands, professors and lecturers. They looked so good together. I envied them. After our separation, Charles rented an apartment for me. He visited often. I thought he was serious. But I later discovered he was married already. His wife found out about me. She came to my place with her friends and they beat me. That is how I got these scars. Chioma's voice cracked. She covered her face and cried loudly. I am sorry, Chukwudi, she wept. You gave me love. You gave me everything, but I threw it away. I was blind. Please forgive me. Her tears fell heavily, her shoulders shaking. I looked at her, silent. My chest tightened. I stood up slowly, walked to Adaora, kissed her forehead, and without saying a word, I left the house. Behind me, I heard Chioma begging Mama to talk to me. Mama's voice was firm. No, when I begged you, you refused. Now you must live with it. I drove home, my heart heavy, but another surprise awaited me. At my gate stood Vera. She walked quickly towards me, smiling. She stretched her arms to hug me, but I stopped her with my hand. Don't be angry, she said. I invited you to that restaurant on purpose. I wanted Chioma to see us together. I knew she would come back to beg after Charles disappointed her. I did it because I love you. I don't care about your education. All I want is your love. Just give me a chance. I looked at her, listening quietly. I admired her courage. It is not easy for a woman to confess her love openly. But my heart was firm. Vera, I said, you are beautiful and educated. Thank you for loving me, but I do not feel the same. Please stop coming here. We cannot be together. Her face changed. Tears filled her eyes. She held my hand and whispered, Okay, Chukwudi, I wish you well. She turned and drove away. From that day, she never called again. Time passed. Chioma sent more messages begging for forgiveness, but I ignored them. 1 month later, I visited Mama's house to see Adaora. Chioma was there. She looked different, thinner, weak, poorly dressed. Her beauty had faded. I wanted to ignore her, but something in me spoke. What is wrong? Why do you look like this? I asked. She opened her mouth, but no words came. She burst into tears and cried profusely. Mama rushed in. Why are you crying again? she asked. Chioma sobbed. Mama, let me cry. I deserve it. God gave me a good husband, but I rejected him because of what people said. Now look at me. I destroyed my life. She turned to me, knelt, and begged. Please forgive me. I don't want you back. I just need peace. I cannot sleep. My heart is restless. Please forgive me. I looked at her for a while. My heart softened. I lifted her up. I forgive you, I said gently. From today, I hold nothing against you. Please be well for Adaora's sake. She needs you. Her tears stopped. Relief washed over her. She thanked me. That day, I took Adaora out shopping, then returned her. Time moved. I focused on my studies. After 3 sessions, I graduated from technical school. I thought I knew it all, but I was wrong. I learned so much production of car parts, how vehicles are designed, how machines are built. Our school even worked with a car manufacturer, and we had hands-on training. It opened my eyes. Before graduation, something unexpected happened. I began to notice one of my teachers, Miss Gina. She was beautiful, graceful, in her 30s, and single. I tried to ignore the feeling, telling myself, focus, don't repeat the past. But the feeling grew. On my final defense day, I gathered courage. I walked up to her. To my surprise, she smiled warmly. I know you, she said. I have noticed you in class. Congratulations on finishing. I wish you well. Amen, I replied, smiling. I asked for her number. She gave it without hesitation. Driving home, I whispered a prayer. God, please give me a graduation gift. Let her say yes when I ask her out. I did not know then that God had something even bigger prepared for me. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. My mind had not rested all night. I thought about Miss Gina, the beautiful teacher who had caught my attention, and how she gave me her number with a smile. I stared at my phone for a while, debating whether to call her or not. At last, I summoned courage. It was still very early, but my heart was burning to hear her voice. I dialed her number. To my relief, she answered. Her voice was calm and polite, almost cheerful. We exchanged greetings, and then I cleared my throat nervously. Miss Gina, I said softly, I would like us to go on a date if you don't mind. For a moment, there was silence. My heart raced. I feared she would refuse. But then she said, that will be fine. Let's choose a time and place. My face lit up. I was so excited. We decided on a fancy restaurant in town, one known for its peaceful atmosphere and good meals. We fixed a date and time and then ended the call. The days leading up to the outing felt long. I had mixed feelings. On one hand, I really liked her. She was graceful, intelligent, and kind. On the other hand, fear lived in me. What if I cannot take her seriously? I thought. What if the scars from my past make me push her away? What if she looks down on me because of who I am? These questions troubled my heart. But in the end, I decided to try. Life is about taking chances, I told myself. Finally, the day came. I dressed carefully, making sure I looked neat and decent. When I got to the restaurant, my eyes almost popped out. There she was, sitting gracefully in a corner. She wore a gold-colored gown that shone under the lights. She looked breathtakingly beautiful. Her elegance silenced my fears for a moment. I joined her at the table, and we exchanged pleasantries. We placed our orders, and while we waited for the food, we engaged in small talk. She spoke gently, and I listened with admiration. When the food arrived, we ate slowly. Every bite was filled with tension, but also with hidden excitement. When we were done, I decided it was time to speak my heart. I looked straight into her eyes. "Miss Gina," I said, "I admire you. You are special. Please give me a chance. Give me the honor of being your man." She froze. Her eyes studied me quietly. For some seconds, she didn't speak. My palms began to sweat. Then she finally spoke. "Thank you for finding me attractive and worthy to be your woman," she said. "But what about your wife? I know a man like you cannot be single at this age." Her words cut through me. I had expected that question. "I was married," I said slowly, but it ended. We went our separate ways. I also have a daughter, Adaora, who is my world. I noticed her face change when I mentioned my failed marriage. I thought she would probe further, ask why the marriage ended or demand details, but she didn't. She simply nodded. She said she would think about it and get back to me. Then we parted ways. 3 days later, I had another important meeting. I went to see the Vice-Chancellor to tell him I had completed my program. When I arrived, he was in a meeting, so I had to wait outside. The clock ticked slowly, and after almost an hour, I was finally ushered into his office. He welcomed me warmly. I smiled and said, "Sir, I have concluded my program." He shook my hand firmly. "Congratulations, Chukwudi. I am happy for you." Then his face grew serious. He cleared his throat. My heart skipped a beat. He looked too serious, and I feared something was wrong. "Is everything okay, sir?" I asked anxiously. "Yes, everything is fine," he said, his lips curling into a small smile. "I actually have good news for you. That is, if you choose to take it as good news." I leaned forward, curious. "I told you earlier," he continued, "that I was led in my spirit to help you. Now the opportunity has come. I have 3 sons, all grown men. They live abroad. One of them lives in the UK. He completed his master's degree at the University of London and now works with an engineering company there." He paused, then added, "I spoke with him recently. He told me that his company is looking for new workers, especially from English-speaking countries. They want people who are hardworking and willing to learn. My son is on the panel that will select candidates. I told him about you." I blinked, hardly believing my ears. "Chukwudi," the VC said slowly, "would you like to relocate to the UK? You will have a good job there, and you can even further your studies. The company does not require a university degree. Your technical school certificate and your years of experience will be enough." I froze in my seat. My mind raced. Was I hearing correctly? "Sir, are you saying there is a job for someone like me in the UK?" I asked in disbelief. He nodded with a smile. "Yes, I am very interested," I exclaimed. "Sir, I have never travelled out of Nigeria before. I am more than ready." "Good," he said. "Then start preparing your documents. You need an international passport, a CV, and some other things. Once you have them ready, scan them and send them to me." I was overwhelmed with joy. I thanked him again and again before leaving his office. As I was about to drive out of the university compound, my phone rang. It was Miss Gina. I answered quickly. "Mr. Chukwudi," she said softly, "I have thought about it. I like you too, and I would like to give us a chance." My heart leapt. But before I could respond, she continued, "But you must also know something about me. I was once married too. I have a 7-year-old son. My ex-husband was unfaithful. He kept chasing other women. I endured for years, but he refused to change, so I left the marriage. My son now lives with my mother. I could not bring myself to tell you this on our date. Every man I have told before walked away. They saw me as a burden. But I have to tell you the truth. If you still want me, then call me back." And with that, she ended the call. I sat in my car, speechless. Gina? A divorcee? With a child? She looked so young, and you would never know she had given birth. As I was still trying to process her confession, my phone rang again. It was Mama, Chioma's mother. Her voice was heavy with panic and tears. "Chukwudi," she cried. Chioma has taken poison. She left a note saying she cannot live without you. We have rushed her to the hospital. Please come." My heart pounded. "Jesus, where is she now?" I shouted. "She is in the hospital. She is in the ICU," Mama wailed. I drove like a madman to the hospital. My chest felt tight, my breath shallow. When I got there, I saw Mama in the waiting area, Adaura beside her. Mama's face was swollen from crying. "She is in intensive care," Mama whispered. I began to pray quietly, begging God to have mercy. "Please, Lord, don't let my daughter become motherless. Please spare Chioma's life." I walked up and down the waiting area, holding Adaura tightly. She looked up at me and asked innocently, "Daddy, are you okay?" "Yes, my angel. I am fine," I said, forcing a smile. Inside me, I was breaking. Then the doctor walked out. I rushed to him. "Doctor, how is she?" I asked desperately, searching his face for answers. He paused before speaking. "Her condition is critical. We were able to flush the poison from her system, but she is still unconscious. We are giving her intravenous fluids. It may help her recover." "Can we see her?" I begged. The doctor nodded. "Yes, but no noise." We entered the room. When I saw Chioma lying there, pale and fragile, a wave of pity swept over me. Yes, she had hurt me deeply, but I never wished her death. She was still Adaura's mother. Mama moved close to the bed, tears pouring down her cheeks. "My daughter," she whispered, "I know you made mistakes, but I love you. You are my only daughter. Please don't leave me. Please stay alive." Little Adaura wriggled free from my hold and ran to the bed. She looked at her mother and said innocently, "Mummy, wake up. Let's go home and sleep. Mummy, wake up." When nothing happened, she began to cry. My heart shattered into pieces at the sight. I stood silently, tears burning in my eyes. After a while, Mama carried Adaura out to buy her sweets. To calm her down, I was left alone with Chioma. I moved closer, touched her hair gently, and whispered, "Please live for Adaura." I stayed for 30 minutes, then left, taking Adaura home with me so Mama could rest. For 3 days, I didn't return to the hospital, but I kept in touch with Mama. On the 3rd day, I went to see the Vice-Chancellor again, with Adaora by my side. He was delighted to see her. When I told him about Chioma, his eyes widened. "You mean Chioma is your ex-wife? She's one of the best in the English department. But she tendered her resignation last month. We have not approved it because we don't want her to leave." I was shocked. "Resignation?" She said she was not in the right frame of mind to continue working, he added. At that point, I poured out everything: our marriage, the betrayal, the pain. I told him how Chioma had been begging for a second chance and even attempted taking her own life, as well as my feelings for Gina, a single mother. I told him how confused I was, not knowing what to do. He listened quietly, then said, "Chukwudi, I cannot tell you which woman to choose. If you choose Gina, remember she has a son and her ex will always be part of her life. If you choose Chioma, you will be giving your daughter a gift. But you must be ready to completely forget the past and start fresh. If you cannot, then don't go back. Above all, pray for guidance." I nodded slowly, taking in his wisdom. Just then, my phone rang. It was Mama. Her voice was filled with joy. "Chukwudi, thank God! My daughter is awake!" I jumped up immediately, holding Adaora's hand. Together, we rushed out, heading straight for the hospital. We reached the hospital and went straight to Chioma's ward. She had been moved from the ICU to a private room. The moment we stepped in, little Adaora ran ahead, straight to her mother's bedside, and began to talk non-stop, her sweet voice bright like morning birds. She told her mother everything. She talked about how Grandma bought her lollipop and candy, and how Daddy drove her around town and played her favourite music. Chioma smiled weakly, pulled her closer with slow hands, and kissed her forehead gently. "I'm happy to see your adorable face again, my angel," she whispered. Her voice was thin but warm. Mama stood nearby, hands clasped, eyes shining with tears she was fighting to hold back. "Chukwu, Dalu," she kept saying softly. "God, thank you." When Adaora calmed down, I walked closer. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, staring at Chioma, my mind full but my mouth empty. She saved me from the silence. "I'm sorry for the trouble I put you and Mama through," she said, still quiet. "I don't know what came over me." Before I could answer, Mama added, "Not only the two of us, your brothers have been worried. They would have rushed here, but I told them you were responding to treatment." I finally found a few words. "Hope you're fine," I said. It sounded small, but it was honest. She nodded. "I'm fine," she replied. "Thank you for coming." Adaora watched us with bright eyes, thrilled that her parents were speaking calmly in front of her. She was still little when we went our separate ways. She had not really seen a home where Mummy and Daddy talk kindly to each other. She held my hand and her mother's together and said again and again, "I love you, Mummy. I love you, Daddy." I stayed briefly. To be honest, I felt uncomfortable and shy. I could not keep my eyes on Chioma for long. After a short while, I left Adaora with them and went to the workshop to attend to some customers before heading home. That night, my thoughts were heavy. I was confused. Finding out that Gina had been married before and had a child shook me. I didn't hate her for it, but I had never imagined marrying a divorcee, especially one who already had a son. Then there was Chioma. deep inside, I knew the truth. I still had a soft spot for her. If I chose to, I could grow to love her again. Adaora's happiness made the thinking even harder. Maybe I should do it for her, just like the Vice-Chancellor advised. But forgetting the past was my battle. Chioma had hurt me so deeply that the scars still stung when I remembered. I thought far into the night and decided to move my mind away from the triangle of feelings. I would focus on the UK plan for now and let life settle on its own. The next day, I typed my CV and submitted my application for an international passport. A date was fixed for my capturing. I told nobody in my family. I just continued quietly. I didn't call Gina. She didn't call me either. Chioma was discharged that weekend and I drove them home. I was grateful to God for her life. If the worst had happened, I knew I might have carried guilt, even though I hadn't caused it. Life slowly returned to normal. We all moved like nothing had happened. But there was one change. I stopped calling Mama to ask after Adaora. Instead, I called Chioma directly. She also called me freely. The tone between us became gentle, careful, but kind. 6 months later, the Vice-Chancellor phoned me. His voice was cheerful. He said the employment letter had arrived and I could proceed to apply for a visa. I opened my email and saw it, my letter. I couldn't believe how fast everything was moving. The offer allowed me to relocate with my wife and children, if I had any, but earlier I had filled the form as single. I entered Adaora's name as my daughter. Even if I had wanted to add Chioma, we had no court marriage certificate to present. I applied for my visa. 2 months later, it was approved. I didn't apply for Adaora's visa. I knew her mother would not want me to take her away, and handling a child alone in a new country with a new job could be tough. I told myself I can always come back for her later. When my visa was ready, I visited Mama and Chioma. After greetings, I shared the news. I'm relocating to the UK next month, I said. They looked at each other, surprised. I frowned slightly. Are you not happy for me, Mama? Why won't I be happy? Mama said, smiling. I am happy. I'm just wondering if this is God at work. She looked at Chioma. Because she's leaving for the UK in 3 months' time too. She got a fully funded PhD scholarship. Chioma nodded. I plan to tell you next week, she said, a small grin on her face. I applied before everything happened. 2 months ago, they approved it. I wanted to ask you to sign a consent letter so I can apply for a visa for Adaora. Wow! Congratulations, Chioma, I said. I'm happy for you. I left their house with my mind spinning. Was this God giving me a sign to take her back? I had hoped that once I reached the UK, life would sweep me forward and I would find a new path, even a new partner. But now Chioma would be in the same country. The story was changing on its own. The following week, I prepared a consent letter and filled the needed forms so she could apply for Adaora's visa. I also started my own travel planning in earnest. At the workshop, I blessed my oldest apprentices and asked them to go and start their own businesses. Prosper, I told them. Make me proud. I handed the younger boys to my close friend, also a mechanic, so they could continue learning under someone trustworthy. I called my siblings and close friends to inform them about my relocation. Everyone was doing fine in their own homes and work. Nobody was ready to come live in my house the way I suggested. so I handed the property to an agent to let it out. I gifted my car to my younger brother. One afternoon, I went to the supermarket to buy a few items I needed for my trip, which was now just 3 days away. In one of the aisles, I almost bumped into someone. I looked up and it was Vera. She looked beautiful and peaceful, her face bright, and she was heavily pregnant. A ring shone on her finger. She smiled warmly and hugged me lightly. We chatted. She told me she met her husband 3 months after we last saw each other, and they married a year later. I was happy for her. I heard what happened to Chioma, she said gently. I thank God she survived. Mr. Chukwudi, if you can find it in your heart, give her another chance. I know it's hard, but it's not impossible, she sighed. I know I tried to take you from her back then. I was desperate and I was wrong. Please think about it. I thanked her for her honesty and prayed for her, wishing her a safe delivery. Then we parted, both of us smiling. Everything was set. My ticket was ready. My destination was Manchester. Chioma's school would be in Birmingham. We would be in the same country, but not the same city. That thought both comforted and worried me. On the evening before my departure, I went to see Mama and Chioma. I transferred some money to Chioma and handed Mama some cash as well. The Almighty will go with you, Mama prayed, placing her hands softly on my shoulder. He will guide you. The land will favor you. You will return with testimonies. I went inside to check on Adaura. She was fast asleep, her small chest rising and falling like quiet waves. I kissed her forehead and whispered, "Daddy loves you." At home, I called the Vice-Chancellor to say I was ready to leave. He prayed for me and gave fatherly advice: keep your head down, learn quickly, save wisely, remember who you are. Very early the next morning, I boarded my first ever flight. As the plane rose into the clouds, I felt tears gathering. "Thank you, God," I whispered. "Thank you for connecting me to a destiny helper." When I landed in the UK, the VC's son had already arranged a driver to pick me up. I was taken to a furnished apartment, clean, warm, and well arranged. I sat at the edge of the bed and shook my head slowly. Me, Chukwudi, once called a roadside mechanic, now living in the United Kingdom. In that quiet room, I felt the truth sink deep. God was truly at work. I called Chioma and Mama and my siblings too to say I had arrived safely. After my documentation, I started work. It was a car manufacturing company. They placed me in the design and development section. Because of all I had learned at the technical school, I blended in faster than I expected, though I still went through some training to learn their systems. 2 months later, Chioma and Adaora arrived in Birmingham. I gave them 2 weeks to settle. Then I visited. My daughter ran to me the moment she saw me. I lifted her up and she laughed, the sound bouncing around the small living room. Chioma stood there smiling, and to my surprise, happiness filled my chest. For a few moments, it felt like I had my family back. I didn't stay long. I returned to Manchester with a quiet joy I had not felt in years. Adaura started school. Chioma began her PhD program. At home, I sat on my bed and told myself the truth, hard truth. As painful as the past had been, my heart still loved Chioma. I had tried to deny it. I had tried to be strong and pretend, but my heart refused to pretend. I decided to give us another chance. I called her and asked her to visit me, and she agreed. My plan was simple. That day, I would ask that we start afresh, slowly and carefully, with respect and honesty. On the agreed day, something unexpected happened. I had an impromptu visitor, Gabriel, my British colleague. He stopped by just as Chioma and Adaora arrived. Adaora ran into my arms first, and we had our usual father-daughter gist. As we talked, I noticed the way Gabriel looked at Chioma. It was not a quick look. It was a steady, interested look. He stayed and chatted with her easily. In fact, he seemed to forget I was there. He laughed with her, asked her questions, and before I knew it, he asked for her number. She gave it to him. A cold, sharp feeling rose in my chest, jealousy. I tried to hide it, but I felt it. I made a light meal. We all ate, talking about school, work, and the funny ways the UK weather can change within minutes. When it was getting late, Chioma and Adaora prepared to leave. I walked them to the door and promised to call. After they left, Gabriel turned to me. "Who is she to you?" he asked, casual but curious. "She's my friend," I said carefully. "I think I like her," he said at once. I wanted to tell him, "She is my ex-wife." The words reached my throat, but did not come out. Instead, I swallowed them. "If you like her, go for her," I said, wearing a smile I didn't feel. He nodded, pleased. After he left, I sat on the sofa, staring at the door. Gabriel had more education. He was a British man, and he liked Chioma. I told myself I would not be fooled twice. I would watch and see. If Chioma chose him because he looked better on paper, more educated, born here, then it would be painful, but better to learn now than later. It would hurt, yes, but it would save me from being left a second time. So I decided to test her heart by stepping back and letting time speak. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. My mind was crowded with thoughts that wouldn't stand still. I kept asking myself whether I had just made a terrible mistake by pushing Gabriel toward Chioma. I had planned to tell her I wanted us to try again, but I never got the chance before he showed interest. Now my heart questioned me again and again. What if she accepts Gabriel's attention, I wondered, because she thinks I don't want her anymore? Another knife-edge question followed. Why did she give him her number so easily in my presence, without the slightest hesitation? I turned from side to side, 1,000 questions and no single answer. I picked up my phone to call her and then dropped it again. I told myself, if she says yes to Gabriel, then maybe we were not meant to reconcile, even though we both found ourselves in the same country. Somehow, after long minutes that felt like hours, I drifted into a light sleep. Morning came. I went to work carrying my questions with me. Gabriel greeted me with his usual bright face. I studied him quietly as we prepared for the day, trying to read a clue from his eyes or his smile, anything that would tell me if he had already spoken with Chioma. But he looked normal, cheerful, focused. We worked side by side like colleagues who had no storm between them. 2 days passed before I spoke with Chioma. She sounded calm, exactly like her usual polite self. No hints, no traces. Life carried on. Then, 2 weeks later, Chioma called and asked if I could visit over the weekend. Adaora was on break, and had been asking to see me. Joy rose inside me. I needed this window. Suspense had been eating my mind, and I wanted to understand where things stood. I told her to come over instead, since I would be working that weekend. She agreed. They arrived as we planned, and thankfully, Gabriel was not around. I took them out briefly, just a light stroll and a quick bite, then we returned home. Chioma tucked Adaora into the guest room and came to sit with me in the living room. A movie was playing on the TV, but my eyes weren't seeing it. She sat quietly beside me for about 5 minutes, the longest 5 minutes I had known in a long time. The air carried a soft fragrance from her body cream. It took me back in time, the early days when her laughter rang through my workshop, when I couldn't go a day without hearing her voice. No matter what had happened, and even if it sounded foolish to some, Chioma, in my heart, remained the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. She called my name gently and brought me back from memory to the present. "I want to use this chance to thank you again," she began. "You've been kind. If you were not a God-fearing and forgiving man, I wouldn't be here sitting beside you today." She paused, then added, "I want to ask one honest question. If I move on with another man today, how would you feel?" I swallowed. "Moving on is normal," I said quietly. "I would wish you well." Even as the words left my mouth, I knew I wasn't being honest with her or with myself. She looked at me, steady and searching. "Then why did you tell Gabriel that I'm just your friend and that he could try his luck with me? Why didn't you tell him I used to be your wife?" I opened my lips and closed them again. I had no clear answer that sounded right. She continued, not unkindly, just truthful. "I was happy when you said you were relocating to the UK," she said. "I saw it as a new door for us to fix what we broke. I thought we could start again slowly. But it looks like I was wrong." She took a breath. "Let me make this clear. I do not plan to date Gabriel or anyone else. I made a decision before I left Nigeria. I will only move on when you have moved on. It's my own way of owning my mistakes. I didn't recognize the good man God gave me." Her voice softened. "I'm not forcing you to take me back. If you don't want to, I accept it. I only need you to know I'm truly sorry for everything. Thank you and good night." She rose to go to the guest room. I stood instantly, held her gently, and pulled her closer. No speeches, no long debates. I hugged her, she hugged me back, as if we both had been waiting a long time for that one moment of courage. I carried her carefully to my room. We shared a tender, private reunion. No rush, no fear, just two people who had learned hard lessons and were ready to be kind to each other again. In all our years of marriage, I had never felt that closeness the way I felt it that night. When it was over, she thanked me with a shy smile that reminded me of the girl I met years ago. "I love you, Chukwudi, my lollipop," she teased softly, the old name she used to call me before university life carried her away. That night, I slept like a child. For the first time in years, my dream was sweet. I saw Chioma and me getting married again, this time with joy that had learned to be humble. Morning came. It was Sunday. I woke her early and told her my plan. "Let's get to church, and afterwards, I want us to register our marriage in court." She agreed without a second thought. She woke Adaora, dressed her neatly, and we hurried to catch the train. We sat together in the Anglican church, fingers interlocked, 3 people in one long bench, quietly thankful. During worship, Chioma closed her eyes. Tears slid down her cheeks, soft and steady, like rain that washes dust away. I heard her whisper, "Thank you, Jesus. I will never be ungrateful again." I handed her my handkerchief and smiled. Then I drew her and Adaora a bit closer. With my eyes on the altar, I breathed a simple prayer. "Thank you for restoration, Lord." After church, we stopped by an African store. We bought wheat flour and the ingredients for bitter leaf soup. Back at my place, Chioma tied an apron, hummed gently, and filled the house with the familiar smell of home. While the pot simmered, we called Mama and shared the news. Mama shouted with pure joy and burst into praise. "God, thank you," she sang. She prayed loudly for us, words of blessings, peace, and a new beginning. She said our marriage was sealed by God Himself and nothing would scatter it again. I also called my siblings and my uncle. My younger brother was upset at first, still angry about the past, but I calmed him down. I told him I had chosen peace. Slowly, he softened. Others wished us well. The food was ready. Chioma served us. The first taste of the soup made me close my eyes. It felt like I was sitting in Nigeria in Mama's kitchen. She had always been a great cook, and Mama had trained her well. We were still eating when the doorbell rang. It was Gabriel. We welcomed him in and invited him to join us. He did, and he enjoyed the food very much. He praised the soup and joked that I was now officially the luckiest man on earth. We all laughed. Soon, it was time for Chioma and Adaora to head back to Birmingham. Chioma packed their bag while Gabriel and I walked them to the bus station. We waved and watched the bus pull away, then returned to my apartment. We had barely sat down when Gabrielle turned to me with a direct question. "Why did you lie to me about your relationship with her?" I froze. The truth that I was testing the waters felt too small to say aloud. I stammered. I didn't want to hurt you. I saw the way you looked at her." Gabriel smiled kindly and patted my shoulder. "I knew there was more," he said. "I saw your face that day like a man carrying a decision that was too heavy. I asked you on purpose to confirm what I already suspected. I never planned to ask her out." He leaned back and continued, "I called her after I left your place that first day. She told me the truth that she wasn't just your friend. She told me about her mistakes and how sorry she is. I prayed you too would find your way back. There is no perfect person and no perfect relationship. If you can forgive and rebuild, do it." I smiled. "We already made up," I said quietly. "We'll seal it in court soon." He clapped his hands once and laughed with relief. "Good. I'm happy for you, mate. Truly happy." Then he added one last piece of advice. "About your career, keep growing. You don't need to chase a PhD like Chioma, but at least upgrade yourself more. You have what it takes, and you're in the right place. Do it for you, for your future. Not just because your wife has a higher degree. If you don't keep growing, your career may stand still." His words settled calmly inside me. He was right. I told him I would take the step. 2 months later, Chioma and I stood together at the registry and signed our papers. It felt like the sun came out and refused to hide. One of the best moments of our lives. Adaora clapped and bounced and told everyone within earshot, "My mummy and daddy just got married." For a while, Chioma and Adaora moved back and forth between Birmingham and Manchester as her program demanded. When she finished that phase, they joined me fully in Manchester. We built a fresh rhythm, simple, peaceful, honest. Chioma got a job as a researcher at Manchester Metropolitan University, the same school where I had enrolled to further my education. We would ride the bus together sometimes, talking softly about work, school, and faith. At home, we cooked, laughed, and allowed healing to continue its quiet work. Let me say this clearly. I am seeing a version of Chioma I never knew before. She pampers me in small, thoughtful ways. She respects me and guards our peace. She chooses gratitude over pride. And I return that same energy, loving her without conditions, choosing to let the past rest. We both decided to keep our eyes on the bright road ahead. And now, the sweetest news, Chioma is pregnant. The scan says we are expecting twin boys. When I heard it, I sat down quietly and cried grateful tears. God restores. Why did I share all this? Because there are lessons, strong ones. Dear men, learn from my mistakes. Dear women, learn from Chioma's mistakes. And as Gabrielle reminded me, there is no perfect person anywhere. What we have are people willing to learn, to grow, to say I'm sorry, and to try again with wisdom. I know it is rare for a man to take back a woman who strayed, but rare is not impossible. Each story is different. Seek wisdom, seek peace, pray, and if you choose to rebuild, build it well. I will never tell a man not to sponsor a woman's education. If you can do it, do it. But while you are lifting someone, lift yourself too. Grow together. Upgrade yourself. Become valuable with or without applause. And to the women, grow too. Not to compete, but to complement. Add value to your own life and your home. I have to go now. Chioma will be missing me. There is soup on the fire and a gentle laugh waiting in our living room. Thank you for listening to my story. God bless you.